Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite Creator. I continue to pray each day for each and every one of you that you, your friends, your family, all of your relatives, and all of your relations will continue to accept and receive the blessings from the universe and from the infinite Creator. I greet you all and I say hello. A little bit of update from down here in Southwest Georgia. I want to say hello and best wishes to everyone. I know that it's supposed to be springtime, and it is down here, but I noticed that in the middle of the United States, there's a lot of snow, heartache, flooding, and a tragedy, quite frankly, because people aren't um, being able to do what they normally do. Now, I've recently, in my own lifetime, and I use my own self as the example because it's very rude to try to use somebody else. Um, and as a shaman in training, I'm always looking for ways to ground myself with the earth. I'm almost always barefoot around here. Sometimes there's little stickers in the yard this spring, but but I wear slip-on shoes and I'm all the time slipping off and walking around on the grass and so forth. So it's like, that's one way to ground. And I've been working my garden a good bit this year. And last year, due to some health issues, um, my woods took over part of my garden. And I literally have to tear down these dead gum trees that literally grow up they're a privet. It's a wild privet. And it's been encroaching on my garden for quite some time. But anyway, so I've been taking time. I'm always trying to stay grounded to the universe. I'm always going outside at night, looking at the stars, watching and seeing what's going on. But sometimes in my own lifetime, and you need a little kick in the head, if you will, or a good, swift kick in the rear end. And as much as I like water, have been around water, my back property is the Little Ochlockonee River. And so I'm very much aware of my own need for water. But the river in my backyard hasn't been running consistently for a long time. And I've literally shrugged my shoulders and like, why go down there? The water's barely running and so forth. And I've made a lot of excuses up. I confess I've made up a lot of excuses as to why not to go to the water. Now I've got a canoe that I've had for years. A couple of kayaks, one of a friend of mine that I inherited and my own. And these things are, literally I can throw them on the truck and 15 miles from me is the Big Ochlockonee River and a large reservoir that floods. Well, it doesn't flood, but it stays full. Looks like it's a reclamation point. In other words, when they built the roadbed for the new bridge, they had to get the dirt from somewhere. So, in order to make this large embankment where the 19 bridge is currently and has been there for a while, it looks like they dredged out nearby and used that, which to me makes perfect sense. So, it has made a reclamation pond, if you will, that's attached to the Ochlockonee River, and it's quite large. It's several acres, and it takes a few minutes to paddle around it. Even if you go all the way to the far end and back, it's a really nice paddle. It's beautiful along there. And then there's the Ochlockonee River, and right now it's flowing really nice. The water's up a little bit, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Now, one of the things that I'm hoping to do is to bring some video and of what it looks like down in the swamp, especially this time of year. It's gorgeous. And if anybody want to get in touch with me and go for a river run, now's the time to go. The skeeters, they're there, but they're not like it would be in another couple of weeks. So, boy, howdy, if somebody wants to go on a river run with me, I've got enough equipment to take a couple of people, and at least for a day. So, and some very interesting things, especially if you've never seen the swamps down here in South Georgia or North Florida. They're kind of similar, but not. Anyway, um, what I realized was the other day, I just literally threw my kayak on the top of the truck. It's a 10-foot sun dolphin that I've had for several years. Threw it up on the truck and said, I need milk and cigarettes. Now one could say, well, I've got some canned milk and I really don't need the cigarettes, although I wanted them. Good excuse. I'm going to go to the store, and that's about 15 miles away. Hello, Pamela. Thank God, Hawkeye. How do you always know when I need you the most? I get a feeling, Pamela. Seriously, I get a feeling. Um, but I realized that, and it's been self imposed, which is kind of strange in itself, in that, well, I don't know if I'm strong enough to go down to the river by myself, made up a lot of personal excuses. And well, I don't know, I got a little weak, and am I strong enough to put the kayak? I mean, I came up with all kind of excuses that were absolutely nonsense excuses on my part. Um, you'll be right here. I'm here, not going anywhere, not anytime soon, at least, unless I'm going to go hit the river. And that's sort of the point. As a shaman, you're always looking for ways to, I'm it's hard for me to say to increase your power, but you always need to keep your energy charged. And so it's not like, oh, I'm trying to be this all powerful being. No, I just want to be strong enough to be a decent human being. I'm not asking for superpowers. I'll be 67 in September, and that's kind of coming close. So, it's like, I refuse to give up. I actually am in better shape than I was this time last year, because this time I'm screw it. If nobody wants to go with me to the river, I refuse to be afraid anymore. And I went through this one time before, but I decided again, it's like, no, 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 there's something about this. And I realized it's the water. I'm a water dragon, for gosh sakes, in the Chinese realm. Born in 1952, you check it out, water dragon. Oh my goodness. So, when a being relies on something that is, part of the core, and flowing water and being around water, and it's like, it's like part of me. So to for whatever reason, I made up the excuses, which I'm thinking right now has been like damned ridiculous. Um, I can literally go get in my truck right now after I get done with this, and in 20 minutes be on the water. Literally 20 minutes, I can be on the water in my kayak and floating. And oh, I've been on the river many times at nighttime, and there's a whole different level to the swamp when at nighttime. And right now, oh my God, it is gorgeous. The moon's half moon, and this next week, oh man, this is going to be even better. But anyway, but I realized that in all things shaman, in all things spiritual, running water, the babbling brook, there are people who get recordings of the babbling brook. I used to have a little device that played the ocean in the background on one setting, and another was a babbling brook. And all it did was annoy the bejeebers out of me, because it really wasn't a true babbling brook. And I used to travel to the mountains all the time. I'd go at least 4 or 5 times a year from South Georgia to North Georgia at least, and always find a babbling brook to camp beside, because there's the air, it's the water bouncing over the rocks, there's the mist, there's this whole thing that enriches the heart, the soul, the body. And I realized that even though down here in the South, we don't have bubbling waters like that, like North Georgia does, or in other places, but I'm referring to some places I used to go, um, is that it's not just the babbling water, it's the flowing water, it's the movement of water. Even within this lake that's attached to the Ochlockonee River, there is motion in the water. Um, and the closer you get to the river, you can tell the flow difference. Hi, Bob. For I forgot to say hello to Bob, Pamela. Here's coffee and a donut for Bob. And good to see you, Bob. I noticed that my screen's flickering, so I just wanted to give a shout out to Bob. But as I went down to the river and floated for an hour and paddled around and thought to myself, goodness gracious, why haven't, why haven't I allowed myself the water? Well, there's a lot of reasons around here, the chicken manure and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But to the point of it's like, well, the water's pretty dang clean. The water's up right now. We had a good rain last week, and obviously the water must have come up a good bit. So down here, the the big Ochlockonee River is a lot of runoff water. Okay. And so if it rains 2 inches, the river could come up collectively in some places as much as 2 feet, depending on how quick it rains and where the water level is. But I've seen the water come up a foot, literally, by the time I get on the river to the time I get off the river a couple hours later. It will absolutely rise a foot and a half to 2 feet. Been there, done that, seen the water. Several years ago, I was camping down on the Ochlockonee, south of where I was at the other day. And there was a big storm that came in off of the Gulf and whipped up through Tallahassee and headed towards us. Now we're on the river, but a friend of mine went up to check his truck and do something. And when he came back, he said, dude, we've got a storm heading our way. It's coming from the south towards us. And we were looking north. Oh, the sky was beautiful, not a cloud in the sky. And all of a sudden, the water started to rise in the river. No rain, but the water started to rise in the river. It was actually going backwards. It was going upriver. There was so much rain downstream that it had no way to flow, and it was flooding so bad south of us that it was easier for the water to go back upstream and flood. So by the time we could get our tents down and our canoe packed up, the water had risen a foot in an hour. And I mean, it was pouring down rain. The wind came up, and thank goodness the water was going upstream, because that's where we had to go to get out. So literally rode the current back to the landing. But by the time we got to the landing, where the one gentleman had parked his car, his rear tires were already in the water, where it had been several feet from the edge of the water when he left just several hours earlier. So, the rivers around here can, especially if you're camped on the bank, you need to be careful. You need to be careful on any river, but to the point. So have been surprised several times with the river running backwards, due to storms south of it. Interesting phenomena. But, you have to be prepared for any kind of conditions. And after seeing that kind of stuff happen, especially twice on the same river at the same camp, like, damn, man, every time I go. But anyway, I'm getting off the point about the water, though. The water is special. There's even in the downpouring rain and hurricane kind of winds, it was a tropical storm that had moved in. And while we were camping and had no idea it was heading up our way. But goodness gracious, you talk about the energizing of the water. Even though we got drenched, the event of the flood, it was invigorating for the whole thing. I mean, one could say, wow, you're living on the edge. And, well, I hadn't planned on living on the edge. I went down the river to camp for a night or two and do a little fishing and come back. No big. I wasn't planning on battling the elements, not like that. But it ended up that way. And so it's like, well, now isn't that interesting? What you thought was just a thunderstorm turns out to be a tropical storm. And anyway, but every time and I've been in several situations because I've kind of put myself out there in the wilderness and stuff happens, So to me, when people talk about climate change and being prepared for stuff, and it's like, I guess I'm used to it because, anytime and if you want to do any real camping, I want to go to where not a lot of people go, not because I want to be, that kind of person. No, I want to go see what few people see. I want to go and explore new areas. If everybody goes to the same place and everybody goes see the same thing, okay. That means it's too easy to get to. But it's also it's the adventurous part of me. And even at 66 and a half and going on, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm getting this old. But in my heart, I'm like, no, I'm going back the other way. No, I realized that by being back on the water, as simple as it was, is that, oh my God, I've been missing out. I have been cheating myself, even if it's just for an hour or two, to go down on the river and float about like I did. Hello, Delaney. Good to see you. It's been a good while. Yes, good to see you as well. I'm glad you're still around, seriously. But I realized that in all of my shaman stuff, it's the water, stupid, which I've understood this for a long time, but getting wrapped up being the hermit here on the property. And I've got so many little projects that have failed over the years. And I've got literally my place is a mess. And I've been cleaning up. It's looking a lot better. But spring has sprung and I still have to, chop down trees that grew in my yard this last year. And now I got to reclaim the same garden I've reclaimed every year I go through it's like I almost chop down the same trees every time. But I've got more potatoes to plant. I've got more seeds to put in and I've got the space, but I need to reclaim it. But in doing so, I also realized, well, wow, I've been working my tail off in the garden. Don't I get a little R&R? I've been planting taters and all these other things. The spinach is up and, the okra's up and, I got, good. The greens are up. Sweet deal, Taters are doing good. And especially my second planting, boy, them things are looking great, man. They're like this tall in a week. Unbelievable how well they're growing. And so it's like, so things are going good. And then I realized, it's like, well, don't you deserve? Well, I sure wished I could, go kayaking. Well, why don't you? Well, I don't know. It's laying right over there in the yard. I know. I feel guilty though. Well, but you've been working in the garden. I've opened up 2 new sections that I've reclaimed them, pulled the roots out, and I've got 2 of them already transplanted. I'm going through this in my head. Why can't I go near water? Why can't I go? Well, I don't know. Making up stories in my own dadgum head. Why can't I go to the water? Now, when I get to the water, I just wade in just to put the kayak in and, the normal going and jumping in the river thing. I realize, oh my God, I've been missing water. I mean, it was almost instantaneous. I just realized water. Oh my God, water. Just walking on the riverbank, water. Oh my God. Why have I like denied myself this when it's just down the road? Well, I make excuse, and I do need a new front end on my truck, but I've got parts for it, and I'm trying to work into getting another tool I need to do the work that I need. But everything's going along. It's just a little slow, but I kept making up these excuses. Well, you can't go. Your front end's bad, but it's only 15 miles. Yeah. Well, what about milk and cigarettes? Well, that's a good excuse. Not that I really need either one of them, but it was a good excuse to go to the river. Okay, fine. So that's what I did, and I realized as I'm paddling around, and I go to the far side, and I'm up in the river. It's up a little bit, so some of the branches are low. I'm getting spiders in my hair, and they're crawling around in the kayak with me, and I realized very few people go where I go. And okay, there's a spider that I went under a tree and got a spider in my hair. Oh my goodness! But look how pretty the spider is, the colors, and look at the web. And as I'm sitting there in a um, what do you call it? Anyway, the current was on either side of me, and I was sitting in a little spot where there's a little island, and the water was kind of going around me. So I could just sit there and watch the water, and I was watching the sun going down all the way across this lake and with the river flowing, and I could feel the water. I could hear the water as it's rippling through the trees and across the logs and everything there. I'm hearing the frogs and the crickets in the trees. I can smell the difference in the air temperature as the sun goes down, and then the temperature of the water, and there's an equal thing. There's this smell in the air. And sometimes it's a little there, it's like muddy smelling when you're in the swamp. And because the water had been up higher and a little lower, it gets a little funky. Not it's like, oh, you want to puke, but it's like it's earthy, it's very earthy, but not like a cow dung kind of earthy. But I'm sitting there in the kayak watching the sun go down, and I'm thinking to myself, just the feel of the water going underneath the kayak, feeling it being on the current, and just having the current floating down on the current. To paddle against the current, just to have the resistance and getting the exercise back in my shoulders. I've been doing chopping and stuff, so it's not like I haven't been exercising, but I mean, as far as using the paddles with the kayak and being able to, and get the rhythm and being able to, stay just the whole 9 yards of it. And the water dripping down the paddle, and going, wow, so what? Big deal. And feeling perfectly safe. Hello, John. How are you? Blessings to you as well. Hi, everybody. Yes, yes. I'm glad y'all came to hang out a little bit. But in all of this kayak experience, where it's like all these memories came flooding back of 2, 3, 4 years ago, of the floods and the water coming backwards up the river, of the times that I spent on the river, and not just that river, but other rivers. It was like there was memory in the water. And so I experienced this as as the other day as being a new experience, when actually it was a conglomeration of many memories. It was all in the memories, and it was all in the water. Just putting my hands in the water, just feeling it on my feet when I got out a couple of times, and was standing, like this deep in water, which I'm prepared to do. And I got my walking stick, and I got my thing. I know how to do this. I've been doing this for years. But the feeling of the water and all of these things came rushing back in. Good memory, even the floods and the rains and being caught in storms. I survived it all. The drownings and the time I got caught for 3 days on the river. It all came back, but not as, oh my God. It was like, wow, the river, the water has the memory. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was exhilarating because I'm still here. I could still sit in my kayak and watch the sun and the clouds. And okay, I don't think there were any chemtrails the other day. It was actually kind of clear. Was one reason why I said I'm going, even though it's an hour before sundown. I'm hitting the river. I've been on the river so many times in the dark that a lot of times I don't even need a flashlight. I've learned how to see. I've learned how to pick out trees. Only when the river is high do I run into stuff and get an eye poke kind of thing. But and then that's when you use your third eye. That's when you use the force. And I'm serious about this. And there are a lot of people who are like, Hawkeye, you can go down on that river if you want to in the middle of the night, but I'm not following you down there. Well, you can get a headlight, you can put a thing on your I'm not going with you. And I'm like, why? Well, you know, the snakes. The snakes are there during the daytime. Well, but you know this and that and but what's going to happen at nighttime? Well, I don't know, but it's creepy. It's cool. There is a solemnness with the trees, and you know this is the south, so in some of the areas it's really wide and the trees hang over, and you know it's like if you could take a boat tour, it's like to some people, you know. Um, I've been on boat tours in Florida when I was growing up. Ain't near as neat as me getting on different sections of the rivers around here. And so it's like, and it's exciting, it's thrilling, it's the adventure. You never know how high the water or low is. You never know if there's something up ahead of you. But I realized the other day, it had been so long since I'd been down there, I was feeling a little jittery. It was like it's getting dark. And I was like, woo, I had got a headlamp and stuff. And I realized that oh, I ran into a spider web. Now, me and spider webs go back a long time. So getting a face full of spider web at nighttime, not, you know, where is he? You know, and then I turned on my light and here's a pretty good sized spider, you know, crawling around inside the kayak with me. He wasn't trying to hurt me, but I was ready to jump out. And I realized, no, this is one of them times where as he crawled up on my pants, I flipped him out into the water. You got to calm down. There are certain things, you know, and me and spiders go back a long way. And but the thing is, it's like, but it's just a spider. And I got clothes on. I'm not looking to harm it. So I just need to let it crawl up me and flip it back into the wild and go on about my business, you know. But the thing is that the energy of the water, and I know I'm rambling about the story, but um, it was the entire invigoration and then the memory of how spiritual water is in itself, what water does for each of us. So, and I feel invigorated, and I haven't taken anything other than the fact that I said, "Damn it, Dave, go man, put your damn kayak up there and drive down there, you silly so get out, go," and I did, and I'm so thankful. And now my kayak's out there ready to go tomorrow because I've worked in the garden really well today, and I feel like I earned it. I earned it. I earned a cup. I earned a couple of hours down on the river. Plus, it's good exercise, but I realize I need the water. So many of us to recharge your energy, go find a, I don't care, it doesn't have to be a very big brook. There are a lot of places in the United States where you can run off to places. Now I know there's still a lot of snow on the ground for a lot of you folk, but if you can, if your energy level is low, if you're looking to rejuvenate, go find some water. Now, I'm a good ways from the ocean, and the ocean's cool. I grew up in Tampa. We were always going to the ocean, and that was cool and everything. But, you know, my daughter and her mother and them lived down around Pensacola area there. And they love the beach. And it's like after a couple hours, I'm like, had enough of the beach. But I can go sit by a flowing river and be happy. I can go sit down there on that lake and for hours and I can wander around like I'd be walking up and down the beach. So, but there are some people who are like, it's a lake. You know, I'd rather go to the beach. Everybody's got their own. Now, but the thing is that salt water and breathing in the salt air is very beneficial. Now, I know there are places along the East Coast where there's so much debris and stuff, you know, that it's toxic. There are places on in Florida and around in other areas that are toxic. But find some place if you need to regenerate your energy. Find some running water. Find any kind of water that's hopefully not too polluted, and recharge yourself. Put your feet in the water, put your feet in the sand, and reconnect. There's a lot of memory in the water. Years ago, I did a water ceremony, and um, the entire idea is that with the water, it's the beginning and the ending, or it's the ending and the beginning. It's both at the same time. So flowing water or tide waters, tide comes in, you can see the different, tide goes back out. Okay, and that's movement. That's good. That's good. That's a good thing. So if you can only find some place where there's tide water, that's good. There are a lot of times when I'd go down to to the Florida Panhandle. Our nearest places don't really have any nice beaches. It's mostly kind of, marshy kind of thing. And but one of the places that I will look for is a tidal pool. In other words, where the water is flowing in or out, where there's motion. Now we'll get little laps of waves and stuff. I'm talking up in the Big Bend area of the Panhandle of Florida. Now, if you go further west, it's more like Panama City Beach and okay, but anyway, St. George Island, that kind of thing. So now it's nice out there, but to the point though, the idea of finding moving water. So even if you're to the ocean, that still isn't the same as water rushing in and water rushing out. So finding a place where there are tide waters, filling up two little sandbar areas is a great place because it's the motion of the water that will help recharge you. There's literally electrical charges in the salt water that you don't really get with fresh water. Now, I just gave my reasons why I'm not too much of an ocean person. Not that I don't like it. Don't get me wrong, but especially I've got a lot of fresh water around here, and it's more easily accessible to me. Now, about a month or so ago, I went over to the Flint River and put my kayak in and paddled like a demon about a quarter mile upstream. The water was so high and flowing so fast that it was really difficult to get on the water. That water over there in that river, in the Flint River, is a lot of rock, sandstone, a lot of flint. One of the reasons why they call it the Flint River. But a totally different feeling of the water. It felt good. It was great, but it was also very turbulent and full of stuff. Not that it wasn't good, don't get me wrong, but it was a totally different feeling from what I got just the other day. And the fact that I spirit was kicking me in the shins. Put your kayak on the truck, go put it in the water. Now, you need water, Hawkeye. And it was like, yeah, well, no more excuses. Go do this, my friend. I'm hearing this in my head going, but why? And then I get there and get the energy and the charge of the water. And I went, oh, dummy. What am I missing? As a Libra, also, I'm always looking for balance. As a shaman, I'm always looking for balance. And here lately, I've been trying to figure out, I just don't seem quite right. Looking for other reasons, things, whatever. But what I realized, well, I'm going outside, I'm talking to my rocks, I'm working in the garden, I'm doing ceremonies outside to the spirits, but something's missing. Water. Thus, this conversation. There is so much in the water. And I was on the water maybe an hour and a half, maybe. And but it was just the idea of sitting on the water and watching the sun go down and watching it get dark and the stars and the moon come out. I'm like, you're sitting out. Now for me, everybody that had been on the water or fishing earlier were all gone. So I got I got this big place to myself. And so it's just like, oh my goodness. I don't feel lonely. I didn't feel scared. At the same time, I felt the awesomeness of the water, of all of that being in it's not really wilderness because there's a bridge like a half a mile away from my position, but it's being on the water and the entire experience of it all. It was the water. Because I can go out in my yard and watch the sun go down. Not the same. It was the water. And it was the memory in the water, of floating on the water again, that brought back all the magic of what water is and how important it is to each and every one of us. We drink water, we drink fluid, blah, 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 blah. But how many of us really take the time to go sit, put your feet in a stream or a river, or take the time for goodness sake and say, well, okay, there's the beach. Did you take your shoes off? Well, no, I didn't want to it was get messy. If the beach is a little weird, then wear sandals. I got these little booty shoes. They're like $9 at Walmart. They always sell them down here in the South for the summertime. And they're mesh shoes, but the rubber on the bottom, they're great for going in places that you don't know what may be in. They're great little boat shoes for doing this kayaking and being in a canoe. You get out, they get filled with water, they drain out. Some of them have little holes on the side. They're great. Been using them for years. I got 3 or 4 pair of them. 2 pairs stay in the back of my truck all the time because you never know where I might go and get my feet wet. I got an extra pair of shoes. They dry out easy anyway. But to the point of that, though, so it's like get in the water, touch the water, and all these things. I was like, oh man, I know all about this thing about water. And I haven't even paying attention to myself. I haven't even given myself the luxury of driving 15 miles and getting in the water. And I realized, oh my goodness gracious, I got to go tomorrow. If it's not, but for an hour. But what's an hour? It takes if my boat's already loading the kayaks. I mean, and my flotation device and paddles and everything are still in the truck. All I got to do is get in and drive. I don't have to be dressed up. I don't need any special gear. I just take some water, blah blah blah, and go and enjoy it and get recharged by the water, the energy of the flowing water. Now, there's a lot to be said about flowing water. Dr. Miller, I'm trying to remember his name right now, but he's a crazy old coot, and I love him to death. But he discusses about the properties of water, and I think it was Schauberger or something like that who studied water and the properties of water. And many people are understanding. For example, you can take a piece of copper wire, and now be careful because you can ionize water one way and then you can kind of make it funky in another. So I would say do an experiment, but you can take a piece of copper wire, not very big, decent, like would be in number 12 or number 14 household wire kind of thing. You could use smaller, but anyway, the idea is that you create a spiral with it. Now, it's important that you understand that if you spiral, you have to look at it from the top down, spiral it in a clockwise fashion, sort of into a cone, if you will. Couple of turns, you can wrap it around your finger and spread it out like this. And the idea is that you attach this loosely, or just hold it up while you run water from your tap, and it'll spin down the copper wire and it'll ionize the water. Now, I've done this a couple of times, but one of the things that is a little curious to me is like, and I'm just goofy this way. What if clockwise is not the way my water needs to go? What if I need to put my copper wire in a counterclockwise cone shape? Will that put a negative anyway? But it's important. One way can charge it positively and the other way can literally charge it negatively. So I would be careful. But the idea is, though, that with certain things that we do, that we can energize water. You can put crystals in water. I usually take my crystals with me. I got a little bag and I grab some of my most important ones and I go, okay, come on, we're all going to the river. Y'all need new energy. Y'all need a recharge. And so Georgia's still too far. Sorry about that, John. What a shame. Um, but the idea that there are the water itself it has charged particles. So, and all these different energies that we're getting from out of the universe, and recently, just today, we had a really good whiteout for several hours on the Schumann resonance. So we're getting another pickup again, and ET says with it that here shortly we should get some more good, honest to goodness, high energy back onto the planet. It hasn't slowed down really. It's just kind of taken a pause between waves, if you will. But the thing is, though, having not been near or on the water recently, I haven't been able to feel the difference in the water. I know that may sound a little strange, but being to the water this time, I realized it seems like the water's more energized. Now, we had just had a high water event where we got a couple of good inches of rain last weekend, kind of deal, and so the water came up and it's on its way back down again. But so that kind of helps charge things up versus it being low and being more stagnant. But it was still that there's a different energy in the water, and I think it's because of the planet Earth. I think it is the Schumann resonance having effect on the water itself. I had not considered this. Just in general relativity, I'm thinking about the ground and the plants and trees and all of these things in my world here on Dave's 18 acres, And I expand myself out to other areas, but because I hadn't been in touch with the water, on the water, I was just kind of, yeah, the water's there. But now I understand that the water is being affected greatly by these energy changes. So it's not just you and me and the rest of other things. Something's going on with the water, in a positive way. I think, I at least that's what that's what the other day did to me. Now, when I was on the Flint, it's been almost a month ago now, but when I was on the Flint, I got a really good charge down there. I took pictures of the orbs and such, and I got a really good positive energy from that. But I didn't have a chance to go sit on the water because the water was flowing and in the flood stage. This time I got to go paddle and sit and be quiet and listen, and different from the Flint River. They both have their beauties, but this is just right down the road. The other one's 33 miles west, one way. I know, interesting, 33 miles. Curiosity. But the thing is, though, I was pleased by the water when I was on the Flint River. The Flint's always got a good energy to it. But now that I've had like the opportunity to like meditate on the Flint, had that vision thing there, and then on the river the other night, and the calmness, but yet there's still energy there. And I'm like, there's something else going on. So in my meditation, I'm just asking Creator, what's this all about? Schumann. What? Schumann. Yeah, what about it? I know. Now, Hawkeye, you ain't paying attention. It's the Schumann is affecting the water. Yeah, okay. No, Hawkeye, pay attention. Oh, it's affecting. Oh, crap. It's affecting the water. Oh. There was this other, like, yeah, okay, it's affecting the water. No, it's affecting the water. Yeah. Sometimes we like, I was looking right at it, feeling it, touching it, walking in it, but then I had to sit there calmly on the water and listen to the nature and creator. And then the message was obvious, but I wasn't paying attention. It's the water is being affected in a way I don't think a lot of us are really paying attention to. So, like earlier today, it was a high energy, Schumann resonance. Mich- Michelle, oh, hello. Yes, yes. Blessings to you. Blessings, blessings. So I'm saying that, if you got energy issues, go check out water. Try to find a decent, clean place if it's running, if it's not, but understand that I think that there's something going on with the water. In fact, I know it is. Now, I can't prove it to you. 5G affect water molecules, and our bodies are 70% water. Oh, yeah. Oh, and John, let me just tell you, last Friday, a week ago, we were in St. George, Georgia, for the Indian powwow. On the way back home after the event on Sunday afternoon, we came back the same way, but I was on the wrong side of the road. Coming back, I'm looking out the window on my right. All of a sudden, every 10 or 15 miles is a brand new, out in the middle of the swamp, 5G tower. Go down the road another ways, not a house, not a farm, not a nothing for 40 miles between some of these towns down here in South Georgia. And the towns ain't really that big. Some of them are literally a crossroads, a store, and a house or two. And there are brand new 5G towers out in the middle of the swamp. The Okefenokee Swamp down there, Homerville, Fargo, and other points down there, Lakeland, Georgia, which I can kind of see it with Lakeland. It's not too far off the interstate, and there's Banks Lake where they filmed Gator with one of the first movies that Burt Reynolds ever did, and but to the point. So, but that's not like, but everywhere. There are not many people that live down out in the swamp. It takes a hardy bunch. And the swamp over there ain't the same as here. I got to say, I don't like it over there. I wanted to take my kayak back over there and do some um, kayaking in the Okefenokee. And after seeing it close up again, I'm like, no, I don't really. No, I'm sorry. I'll stick to my swamps over here. Much more comfortable, and the water at least runs a little bit in the Okefenokee. It's just sitting there. Not that it's not stagnant, but it's just sitting there. So you can't really tell where you are. Anyway, much different. Just pine trees and palmettos. At least around here, there's different kinds of trees. It's a different terrain. Even though it's almost due east of me, uh, 20 miles east of me, the terrain drops I'm almost at 300 feet where my house is. And 20 miles east of me, it drops down to like 100 feet above sea level. And then it drops down even further. And on the other side of I-75, it's damn near flat all the way to the ocean. So it's like I'm up here on a rise where I live on this side of I-75 and more towards Alabama. But anyway, with that said, though, the swamps around here are a lot different than over there. Even though I've got palmetto bushes around here, um, but seeing the different type of seeing the 5G in the swamps was really surprising. And I'm talking one here, and my friend and I are talking back and forth. I said, "Look at that! There's 8 of them buggers up at the top. Those big, And like the next one, when I was counting them, and she go, "Well, there's another one." And I'm like, but there's 1, 2, 3. We must have passed 10 of them easily that were just right off the road. And so it's like in the middle of the swamp. Just gotta wonder what these folks have got up their sleeve for us with this. Don't know. I know I'm ready to go cut the power if things go south with this mess, though. I think a lot of other people. I mean, we don't have to tear the tower down. We just got to take out the power. That's all. you know. An axe will do that. Just saying. We don't need any violence, but not saying that anybody should, but there's enough rednecks around here that they'll take a chainsaw to that sucker, just the power. But anyway, back to the energy of the water, though. there is the evidence of what's going on with the Schumann is affecting each and every one of us. I know the other day I was like, man, it was all I could do to move. Schumann was low, but the thing is that each one of us are riding this wave of the energy, and this wave is like a wave as in water. So when I think about the quantum reality, when I think that everything in the universe is connected, when you think about all the molecules in water and how water interacts and swirls and does its thing, water is connected from the source. If it's touching the ocean. So what's in the water, and I had a shaman friend of mine years ago, a wonderful old gentleman, and he sat by the river and he said, if you touch water rather than a lake, if you touch running water, a river, an ocean, then you're in touch with the entire planet because all the water is touching. And I was like, wait a minute, look, what? All the water is touching. Well, wait a minute. From the stream in the mountain, if it's flowing and it's touching, the mountains and the ocean are speaking at the same time. So the whole planet and water in the earth, the whole planet, all the water is touching. That means all this energy is flowing, is being exchanged, is being swirly. I don't like to use the word manipulated, but the Schumann resonance is manipulating the water, not necessarily for any kind of purpose, but because it's interacting, that's affecting it. So I just wanted to bring this to you. I know there are several of us, a lot of us who've been hammered with strange energies, feeling really tired, out of sorts. And I realized, oh my God, if I get this again, I got to drag myself to water because I can plug in. I can stick my feet. I don't have to immerse myself, although it's almost warm enough to do that. Tomorrow's supposed to be warm enough I can actually go swimming. Well, if me and cold water just don't get along. But anyway, um, it was actually warm enough the other day. I just didn't. But to the point, though, the idea of just touching the water and allowing your being to interact with the water is connecting the whole planet. So it's like, man, when I was saying my prayers and meditation down on the river the other night, I was like, that means I'm communicating with the whole planet. My prayers are going right in the water. And I realize this, I know this, but somehow it had like, I don't know, maybe I've been clouded with all these other things and these other spirit journeys, too worried about the planet itself, Mother Earth, the earth part. And I just, yeah, water, yeah, okay, yeah. But it didn't seem like it was, for some reason, I kept making excuses. Like I said, no more excuses. You hear me? Water. I'm going to go seek it once a week. I don't care. I'm going to go look for water. Now, the same point, the hurricane messed up my backyard, such as that it's really difficult for me to get to the river in my backyard. But that's on my agenda. Garden first, fixing the trail back to my own river is going to be high on the list. Um, but being able to, I can't float on my river. It's just not possible right now because of the hurricane knocked so many trees down. You couldn't float it if you wanted to. But the Big O'Clockney and just down the river, making the effort on my own part and going, you know what? It's not that far. Well, I don't know. It's 15 miles. And well, I don't know. It's 50. I used to drive 50 miles one way to work and back every day for 7.5 years. What's 15 miles? I don't know. I've got this thing in my head that, but it's 15 miles. So I become parts of me had become a curmudgeon, if you will. It admittedly, I'm like, when I was sitting on the river, I was like, "What happened, Hawkeye? We love the water." Yeah, I know, but why did I have all these excuses? I don't know, but, and I don't know what my excuse for making up excuses for all the excuses was. But it must have been kind of dumb on my part. That's all I got to say. Cause it's like, oh my gosh, I've been missing this. I think a lot of people are missing it. Things that I just kind of basically took for granted just because I didn't go to the river. Well, I know the water's there. Yeah, but it's sticking your feet in. It's and for me, it's the understanding as soon as I touched the water, when I went, oh my God, that's why I'm out of balance. I'm not in, on, around oh my God, water. Oh, is this the cure all? Well, maybe for me, because it's like I got plugged back in to the rest of the water on the planet. And it feels pretty decent. It's strange. So I would challenge you, go find some water, salt water if you can, flowing salt water, tide waters if you can. But the rolling ocean, that's good too. But if you can find any kind of, even if it's not very fast, find some flowing water. If it's a lake, okay. But if it's running water, that's where the charge is. That's what connects the rest. A lake, eh, if there's a lake with a dam and it's flowing over, and there's a little stream that connects to another one, okay, that's pretty dang close. So depending, when I think about, I know the Midwest is flooded. There's still a lot of water. I know this might sound like backwards thinking. Maybe that water is there to help heal the land. Maybe there's a positive charge or something in the water that has to happen. I know people are displaced. We've had floods around here over the years, and my house has been flooded before. But from underground water coming up through the floor, literally. I mean, but my backyard's been flooded to within feet of the house back here. Still, if you can go 10 feet back and drop 4 feet in elevation from where my house is sitting right now. So, for the water to come up to my house, oh man, it would flood out the bridge, it would flood out other areas. So it's not that I'm not worried, but man, we've had it to where the bridge was almost flooded and I was still safe here at my house. Plus I got an upstairs. Anyway, but the idea though that water isn't important. Well, I take a bath. Yeah, but is it chlorinated? Well, I don't know, but I was at a friend's house and was taking a shower, and it was chlorinated, and I was like, I couldn't wait to get out. My hair was like all yucky, and I was like, ew. And they were like, yeah, but my water's clean. Well, my well water's got a little bit of clay in it, and everybody was, oh, but your water's got clay in it. People buy clay to get the toxins out of their body. I drink it. In every cup of coffee, there's a little bit of clay in here because it's suspended in my water from my well. Well, you're supposed to be dead, Dave. No, it cured my kidney problems. I don't have kidney problems anymore. I drink my own water. I don't drink it out of a plastic bottle. I'm not drinking chlorinated water. I used to pour chlorine in my well, and it was like, what? I don't do that anymore. Now I run it through filters, but that's not the point. I can still drop a bucket in my well and pull out water that's cleaner than some of the water that I see coming out of these municipalities. And it's like, whose water's the best? Just saying. I'm not dead yet, and I've got an open pit well. I dug it myself, well, with help from friends, with a bucket, a shovel, a special well digging tool, which is actually half of a post hole digger. You literally have to slice the clay and pull it apart, and it comes out in chunks. You don't really dig it. You slice through the clay. But the thing is, though, that water is magical in itself. A witch's brew got to have water. Any kind of tincture or any kind of whatever going to have some water in it. It might be alcohol based water, but there's going to be water in it. So all of the things, a love potion's going to have a liquid, probably got some water in it. Well, it might be alcohol, yeah, but it started with some water and some other stuff. Um, well water, hello, Joseph. Well water is the best and has lots of iron and has a sweet taste. Goes awesome with my morning coffee. God, I miss it. See, I go get coffee from when I was over on the East Coast last week. It was like their coffee was like, but I realized it was the water. I was so glad to get home with my okay, so my water's a little cloudy, big deal. But man, the flavor of my coffee was like, oh man, it's so good to be home. Because everybody else's water is treated in some way or another. I mine's just well water, like in the old days. And I can throw a bucket down. I have a galvanized bucket that I throw in and pull it up to test and to test water quality. Water quality, and it's like it's as clean as anything else. It's got it. It actually smells like water, like you were saying, Joseph. There's iron in it. You can taste the water, but it's not like no. You get some people are like, ooh, taste this water. And I go, there's no taste. Yeah, isn't it great? No, I want a little bit of minerally taste in there. I run my house as I'm two filters. And so one is a particle filter and another one is just a charcoal filter. Household filters, nothing special. But the thing, it's even with both of those filters, I still get a little bit of clay in it because it's so entrained in the water itself. And I'm not about to try to get that out. There are times when I go up at the hill and I turn on the water and I flush out. Some of the clay will settle in the bottom. I turn it on, flush it out for a couple minutes, back in business. No big deal. Um, no, I don't use the salt filter. No, Joseph. No, I don't have that kind of money and that kind of thing. And my parents had one, and they lived around Several Hills, Florida, and they paid big bucks for that thing. And the changing and the salts, and the thing is I've been here for almost 40 years. I've never had any real issue except the well going dry. But even then, at the low level, water was still good enough to drink and take a shower with. But yes, damned expensive. And I just keep, I go in once a month. I'll buy uh, two charcoal filters. Next month, I'll go in and I'll buy two of the sediment filters. And once a month, I'll change one out. So I've always got an extra laying around. But the thing is, so it's not that expensive. So $10 a month, in filters, big deal. Um, and like I said, there are a lot of times why the water at the bottom tastes different than the water at the top of my well. Just strange, but there's just something about dropping the bucket in and pulling it up and taking a drink. Just saying. Don't know what it is. But the energy, I know there are places in North Georgia, Middle Georgia. There used to be a place not far from here, but the water doesn't run like it. Excuse me, got the hiccups. Hang in there a second. If we have decent rainfall, there are springs around here. And I know of one not far from where I camp on the Little Oclockney River. And the water comes out of this little stream just as pure and cold. But if we're in a drought season, there ain't but a trickle there. So it's sort of like an artesian well. Well, Artesian. No, wrong. Scratch that. Scratch what I said. Um, Here you use zeolite. Yeah. Um, I've just gotten used to the clay in my water, and I notice all these people paying good money for clay. That's what's at the bottom of my well. I mean, you know, um, now I there are a lot of women who would, oh, and probably men, because there is this like ingrained water, I mean clay in my water. You can look at it, it's clear, there's nothing wrong with it, but whites don't come white. You can't bleach them. So all of my whites are a little tan. They're clean, but it's tan. No, and it's just the color of the red Georgia clay that has literally gotten into my white clothes, and they're clean. You can smell them. They're fresh. But they're not white any longer. And no matter, I quit bleaching stuff because I realized how much bleach was affecting even my little area down here. The bleach was killed my septic tank. That was dumb. um, you know, and some of the other things. So bleach is around, but I'm using different kinds of cleansers now, if I use any. But ammonia, ammonia has so many different good qualities, and if you pour ammonia out on the ground, it actually is a fertilizer. Um, think about it anyway. But to the point though, so and I'm very particular about what I use around here on my property, because I don't want anything in my soil that might end up in my well. Even though the well is uphill for me, I don't want anything even downstream of my well um, to be any kind of nasty. Hello, Sherry D. Good to see you. Clay is actually good to eat. Yes, I know. That's my point, Joseph. I could sell the clay at the bottom of my well. Um, yes, do some research. People believe it cures all sorts of disease and cancer. I'm not trying to say it's true, but they have done plenty of research and claim it's true. Joseph, around here, the old timers, the real sure enough redneck hillbillies or swamp billies down here in the South, there are clay pits. Literally, they're even on some of the old maps. I even found a couple of them on Google Earth, and doing some local research. But there are some clay pits around here. People still go once a month and go dig some clay. Now I found this out 20 years ago, and I'm hanging out with some local hillbillies. We're drinking, smoking, having a cookout, having a good time. And this lady, she pulls out this little satchel kind of thingy, and she spoons out this little bit of stuff. And I go, "What's that?" She goes, "Well, it's clay." And I was like, "Clay?" She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "You don't eat clay." And like there was like 25 or 30 people of hometown rednecks, and I'm like, eat clay? Why? And she was like, well, it cures what ails you, gives you your minerals, and helps your digestion. And we all, but everyone's like, yeah. And so where do you go? Well, to the clay pit up yonder. Everybody's been going there for years. And I'm like, but then I got to talking. I'm, well, wait a minute. The bottom of my well is clay, and there is a certain amount of the clay that's dissolved in the water. So I'm getting clay every time I drink out of my water. I don't have to eat it. I'm already ingesting it, and in minute quantities that probably does me more good than some other people. But the thing is I've known about this for a long time, because these old redneck hillbillies have been talking about this for a while. And so it's like now all of a sudden, oh, it's like the chic thing to do. People down here are going, man, them city folk, they just don't know no better. They call us stupid, and they'd be right. One lady says, she says, well, me and my husband, we're gonna go down to the pond fishing. And I said, well, that's good. She goes, no, we're gonna go fishing, but we need some clay too. And I was like, you need clay. Yeah, we're going to get some clay. All right. Why? Well, because that pond's got a white clay and the other pond's got the red clay. The red clay is good for some, and we like the white clay. And it's like, okie dokie. Well, it just so happens that the first 10 feet of my well is red clay, and the bottom 12 feet is white clay. How about that one? So I got them both in the same well. But these people were literally, I mean, they went fishing too, but her main purpose was like, yeah, we're going to go fishing, but I really need some clay. And that's been 20 years ago, probably, yeah, at least. And I'm not, but a lot of other old timers around here down in the South talk about some of this stuff, And I think to myself, when they couldn't get to a doctor, they had plants, they had this, they had that. I mean, they would literally, and I've been down on the river and got cut and stuff and things. And you take some clean mud and put it on your wound. Clean mud, Well, what are you talking about? Isn't mud dirty? Yeah, but if you dig down and get you a good scoop of it, it's more clean than anything probably you could put on you. And in the old Indian days, you see some of these folks was like, what do you do? Well, it's like, for example, I know people say, well, if you had to exist, what would you do? Well, one of the things, for example, there's different plants in the swamp that you can use to as a mosquito repellent. But if they're really bad, what you do is you cover yourself with mud. What? Yes. You go find you a spot. If you're surviving, and you're doing, you ain't got no bug spray, go cover yourself with mud. Now, people back in the day say, well, them dirty Indians. Well, that's because they was getting eaten alive by bugs. And you roll down in the mud and cover yourself with the goodness. And they'll land on you, but they don't like chewing through mud. They really don't. And it's like, well, but isn't that dirty? The rich folk pay good money for a good mud pack and a bath. So it's like, well, wait a minute now, but isn't mud dirty? And then how come the rich people pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for some of these mud baths and things? Wait a minute. So those of us who talk about doing these things like, normal stuff, when you go in the swamp, you get mud on you, just go ahead and smear some on because it'll help keep the bugs off you. You don't wash off the mud, you leave it on. Why? Oh, well, but there's, other insects and this and that. Now, I'm not talking about rolling around in stinky muck. I'm talking about find a good spot where there's some decent, good mud that you can put up off the bottom and smear on you. Works every time. It washes off, So it's like, but to the point though, so there are a lot of people who just don't really pay any attention to some of what the old folks do. And that's one of the things I've been studying ever since I moved up here out of Tampa. I love to sit around with the old codgers on the bench and listen to them tell stories about the old days and what was good and what was bad and what they used to take and what they didn't take and how they took care of rheumatism and how they watched the stars and how they watched where the moon set and how they watched, it's like, for example, spring isn't spring around here until the pecan trees bloom. Spring ain't spring until this blooms. Spring ain't spring until this happens. And the old timers would always talk about, and in the fall, if you see the ants moving, and and it's like last year, yeah, boy, the ants moved a lot last year, and early too. And this year there was some things. It's like interesting. So I've been listening to what a lot of folks would call old wives' tales. But when you live down here, now I've lived in other places, visited other places. I can only refer to living here in the South because that's where I live. But I've watched other types of ecosystems, if you will. I've been to Arkansas many times, North Georgia mountains many times. And there's, as you go up, if you look on the planting zones, for example, for seeds or plants or whatever, there are different zones, there are different temperatures, there are different things. There are certain things that just won't grow down here. apples do horribly. You can't grow a decent apple down here. There's not enough cold days. But 100 miles north of here, apples. So everything grows in different climates and climatic areas, or uh, subcultures. I mean, even here in my own yard, over here where some trees have grown, there's other plants that have started to grow in there now and come up. There are some plants that I haven't seen in a while that used to grow in the fields around here, but all kind of disappeared because of the planting, and they only plant cotton anymore around here, and so the diversity is just like. So I've let my field grow up here, and every summer, every spring, it's a joy to see what kind of volunteers have come up in the yard. I had a mulberry tree come up. I've gotten several other trees that came from bird droppings, and it's like, thank you. I've always wanted one of those, and now I've got two of them. I've now started out with one pear tree. I now have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven pear trees. Actually, I found another one that would make eight. So, and I started off with one, but that's because the birds and the squirrels, and they drop their seeds. They're all from the same pear tree, but some of them are out here by the fence, and the original ones back here. So now I've got pear trees on my property. I didn't plant any of them. I planted the original one, and it was getting old and starting to go. But I did notice pears on it this year already. I was out in the garden today, so that's a good sign. But now I've got all these other pear trees. I got to cut two of them down because they're in competition with my garden. Well, I can't transplant them. They're just, that won't work. Um, but anyway, the idea though that water is the basis for all of these things, the clay, the climate, and all of these things. I know I got off topic of the water in this last little bit. That I try to stay on topic and try not to wander too much. But the idea, though, that all of these things are affected, I still will challenge you, though, that if your energy's low, then force yourself to go put your feet in some water. And if you can't, at least go sit by a babbling brook and kind of inhale the mist from it. It is cathartic. It's healing. And right now, I can't explain it, other than it's a lot different than it was before. The energy of the water is shifting along with the energy of the planet. And I'm repeating myself, I know, but standing in the water the other night, it was like, you got to tell folks about this. Hawkeye, this is one of them things you need to spread around. For folks who are low on energy or whatever the condition may be, try to find some good water, and especially that's connected. Now, not all water is that. I went through all that, but I think it is important that we understand, pick up on this one, because I've I've realized it before, and that's kind of one of the things. It's like, I understand the quantum, and when I speak my prayers and so forth, I realize that energy is going out into the universe. I get that. The universe is like a big ocean, but somehow I had skipped water. I know it's there, but I personally have skipped water for all this hours worth of discussion earlier. But when I was standing in the water the other night, it was, you gotta tell folk. Because in a shaman's realm, a prayer at the river to put your prayers into, to get rid of old things. So if you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, put it on a piece of paper, put it into something, and put it on the river and let the river take it away. Or the ocean works. And if you want to receive something, then you stand in the water and you ask Creator to bring you the energy and the life that's in the river that's flowing towards you. So it takes away the bad, especially if you send it, and the water will accept it, especially if you do it correctly. Dear water, take this negative energy from me. I wish this to be removed, and I wish to send it out on the ocean for it to dissipate. I don't want anybody to pick up negative energy. But in that, at the same point, you say, as these negatives are flowing away from me, and in my realm, I'm thinking, I want the negative to go out of me and turn into positive. I want the rest of the water and the energy and the flowing to change my negative I wish to remove and turn it into positive. So I'm not just like, okay, here you go. I'm dumping my problem. Let the earth take care of it. Nah, there's a little twist to it. And the twist is my intent. I wish to get rid of my problem, but turn it into a positive. And I must give it up to the planet, to the water, so that the water can help to heal that which I sent out. And at the same point, I'm allowing this to go out, but I'm going to allow the good energy to replace that which I'm trying to change, that which I wish to get rid of. Now, again, it's not that you're dumping it on the planet, and there are people who will do so, that they'll just like, well, here's all my crap, river, take it away from me. But then there's nothing to back it up. They don't respect the river and say, and I accept the healing from the flowing river to me, and I wish that this energy that I'm releasing to be changed. I wish it to wash away my negative, and I wish that negative to be converted in the river to positive energy. So it's a releasing, and also in that thinking, now, not all people do that, but in my world, you have to think about the consequences. If I dump all my problems in the river, then that's going to add negativity. But I add the negative in hopes that it will revert to the positive. So there's that little twist in there. A lot of people won't pay any attention to. And that's important. But even so, the river and the waters and Mother Earth will still help. But it's like in my realm, and I say in the shaman's realm of thinking, is that, you just don't dump it. You dump it with the intent that it will change. And by getting it out of you and let it metamorphosize and let it mingle with the rest of the earth, so you're getting rid of, but to change it. And you're going to accept new energies to take its place and to re-energize your own soul. So I also realized while I'm standing there and sitting on the river, and I'm just literally like got my hands dangling in the water just to feel it, right? And I'm thinking to myself, and I've already known this, but when I say a prayer while standing in the water, it goes into the universe, but it also goes into the water. It's like a double whammy. So I stood there very calmly the other night. Now, where I was at, nobody around. So I'm not like screaming or hollering or doing any kind of special dance. I'm just saying prayers. But I realized that by standing in the water with my prayer and with my intent and with all these little things that had happened, as I was getting out, I realized, oh my goodness, how special the water really is, especially if we can connect the water through us as an antenna, if you will, if we can use the water and the universe. So I'm thinking quantum space and all of the, quote, waters of the universe, but I'm also thinking I've been leaving out the water on the planet. And it's really a part of me. It's a part of all of us. So have you ignored it? No, that's a rhetorical question, but I know I have, and I've got damn near a year of excuses that are worthless excuses. Water's the conductor, right? So, but just in the quantum realm, if you speak it and your vibrations are good, it's going into the universe. It's going into that quantum computer. it's a part of it. And by using this medium here, it assures me and what I wish to portray is positive intent. Positive intent. How can we fix this? There's so much negative. Oh, we're going to die again. Okay, fine. But how about our prayers? What can we do? Well, let's go stand in some running water and all have a prayer of goodness. When I say my prayers of peace, which are all the time, to stand in the water and say the same prayer, I can feel the energy in my feet. I can feel the energy connecting with the water. And I was like, oh my God, it was almost like getting hit with a bolt of lightning through my feet the other day. Was it yesterday? Man, nah, it was yesterday. Oh wow, I think it's like what, Wednesday. No, it was yesterday. Wow, that's strange. Anyway, thought it was the day before yesterday. That's how magical it is too. In where I can go, and I everybody's got their own situations on where you live, and if you live in a city, and what your country is, and whether or not there's snow on the ground, and etc. I get that. But the thing is that um, if you can find a spot when spring finally does thaw out in the Midwest and further up north, it's going to be a lot of water. I wonder how it's going to be charged. It's snow right now, sitting on the ground. Is Mother Earth charging that snow? What did the snow pull out of the sky? Meh. But what is the UVs doing to the snow, to the water that it is, and what's going to be the conversion factor? Just some curious things. But understand that when we consider what water is, and always has been, um, major things. There's always some kind of water source. Spring head. When I was in Ohio, um, and where that with the petroglyphs, I did a video a couple of years ago about it when I was up there, and showed some of the blue sphere beings that I met there, and the contact that I made there. Guess what? It's just several feet from a spring head, running water, very spiritual. Most of the places that have found up in the North Georgia mountains were little spring heads just literally coming out of the side of the hill. And there'd be so much energy, and you could feel like the fairies and the water sprouts and nymphs and just elementals, that it's like, yeah, they're in the woods, but there's something about water coming out of the ground. There's something about the flowing of the water, and in all things relative, it just kind of like makes sense. But the connection to the universe is what dawned on me the other day. It was like I had to remember, and that was, I understand the quantum and I do understand the water, but I hadn't put the two of them together in a while. And that's my fault. An interesting point. It sure did, invigorate me in a lot of other ways. And I'm always looking for ways to, like, how do I keep my spirit going? How can I stir things up and keep things going? How can I, keep this peace movement uh, for the planet, for the solar system, for our universe? I'm not just praying for you and me. I'm praying for all of us. But you all are included. But the thing is like, what about the power of water? Oh, wow. On a molecular, inside is, outside is, flowing, salt water, you name it. What about the power of water? Combined with the prayers that we already say into the quantum universe. I'm going back to the river like I should have stopped. For some reason, I guess I needed to maybe be away from the water to understand how important water actually is, especially it for me. as a water dragon, but also in the grand scheme of things as a shaman, as a spiritual being, as a human being. We need flowing water. We need these things. If nothing more than to just give us a break, help us. And when you utilize the water, as I stated just here recently, let the bad stuff go to be transformed and turned into good again, and to accept good in from as the water flows. Cleansing, healing on so many levels. Accept it in your heart that it's healing you, and it will. I know I've done some ceremonies with some people who were like a little shaky on the belief side, but after doing a river ceremony with them, after doing a water ceremony, they'd call me up a couple days later and go, I don't know what you did, but I feel better. I don't know what you did. And I'm like, no, you did it. I'm just the medium to help you get there. You're the one that had to get rid of it. You're the one had to accept the energy coming in. I'm just the guide. I'm just here to show you how to do it. It's your own intent. There are other people I talk to, they were like, well, I felt better, but I was, and it might have been that they thought that what was going to happen was going to be more groundbreaking to them. So it's like, well, I'm going to, I'm going to be free of everything. Well, everything needs work. You can be free of it if you choose. If you say, well, that I feel good for a day or two, and then you go right back into your own self, whatever, that's your fault. You had the opportunity and you chose to make a different path. So there are those people who it affects, and they will take the chance of the life change that I just provided the means. They actually did the work. But if you don't believe it in yourself and follow through, then what good's it? You got to follow through, not on no matter what it is. So the people that were helped accepted the help, and they accepted what they did, because you must accept and receive the healing from the universe. If you go, well, I accept it today, and then 2 days later you forget, well, I don't know if I believe it or not. Well, then if you have one down day, then, well, the rest of it's for shit. No, you're just having a low energy day. You got to believe it at all times, even when you're in the pits. It might be a pit type day and the mud's nasty and there's crap on your, right there. Here, you got to go. It's just a crappy day. Tomorrow will be better. And if tomorrow ain't better, well, okay, maybe it's the next day. But if you give up and just allow it to swallow you, then, well, or you just give up and say, well, it was just, that was short. That was nice for a couple of days. No, accept the life change. You got to live the life change. And like for me, shame on me for not being at the water more. I mean, I literally earlier today, I was beating myself up because I'm like, why haven't you gone? Well, I don't know. Well, what'd you do? I don't know. Well, you got your stuff right there. Yeah, I know. Well, your kayak, I know. But why didn't you go? I don't know. And so I was like running down these things like, why haven't you gone? Oh, shut up, Hawkeye. Let that other side go, for goodness sake. I'm going to have to go back down to the river just to forgive myself for not going to the river more. I know, strange, but it's like I have to go down and ask for forgiveness of the water. I I know it sounds a little silly, but for my own self, it's like, water, how can I forgive you? And how much the water attaches to the ocean and the oceans and the this, and how everything is connected, and how I've understood it before and forgotten. So it's a reminder for me, and hopefully a reminder for you. And if not a reminder, maybe just a ding ding wake up call. Um, I'm going to read through some of your stuff. I know y'all been chatting over here, and I've been paying attention. And I haven't been using my glasses as much, and my eyes are actually improving slightly. I'm squinting, but Um, so, in how do I put this? In my belief of accepting and receiving healing and knowledge, I can actually see some of this without my glasses. Well, don't your eyes just get progressively worse the older that you get? I'm actually reducing what the magnification is on my reading glasses. There are other things, and I'm like, well, so I had understood something a couple of years ago, and it's actually becoming true, in that the more I used my reading glasses, the more I needed them. Now, and just working outside and in the garden and stuff, I don't need glasses on. When I'm out in the boat or in the kayak, I didn't need my glasses on. But now, because I've allowed my eyes to adjust, I can actually read better now than I could 2 or 3 years ago. If I looked at this stuff over here, all it would have been was just a blur. I would have had to have found glasses. So, is there healing going on? Even an old dog can learn new tricks. My eyesight's getting better? What? You just got, I have to ask the question, am I special in any way? No, but I'm a human being that's understanding there is more to this universe than what we're told. That when you accept these natural things, when you accept them and say, you know what? I think if I practice, my eyesight can actually get better. Maybe, my knees gotten better. My back, it's still bad, but it was a nasty accident. But I put the kayak on the truck. I'm a year older, but I put it up on the truck. And it's like, well, I don't know, isn't your back so bad? No, tossed it up there. I've been working in the garden, getting my arms strong again. So it's like, even though I had a slow spot, I refuse to give up. And I also, with refusing to give up, I'm also accepting the healing of the universe every single day because I notice these tiny little changes. And instead of things getting worse, they're tiny little changes of getting slightly better. Now I'm gonna put my glasses on because I want to read and not try to have to squint. But Pamela says, I have been so consumed with the 3D realm, I'd all but forgotten that healing water is what I do. Sherry D says, Dr. Emoto did water experiments, and it was about positive thoughts and beliefs versus negative thoughts projected in water. It's astonishing. It really is. And there's a lot of other stuff out there too. And I think it was Victor Schauberger who, like back at the turn of the century, along with Tesla, he did some stuff with water and energies that's whoa. So it's 100 years old. This is like really not new. Um, and I can't remember Dr. Miller's first name, but he's the crazy old gentleman that's been on several shows. But he also talks about the miracles and how water is very special. Um, um, Country folks have a different kind of smart. This is Joseph Cook. City folk wouldn't have a clue if something happened and they couldn't go to the store to buy their necessities. They would come to us rednecks for help. I love pear trees, love blackberry season the most, love to make me a great blackberry wine and jelly. Also, too, I noticed that this year, if Joseph is still on, that oh man, elderberries are going crazy around here. And I've got elderberry trees that didn't used to be on my property, several of them right out here along the side of the garden. I don't want to cut it down, but it's like, So elderberry wine and I want to make some elderberry, a tincture of elderberry. But anyway, and some jelly too. But to that point, yeah. Sherry D says, I grew up on a farm that had clay as soil. Never knew it was worth dollars. You're kidding me. I bought bentonite clay, but didn't know clay soil had value. Mud draws toxin out of skin when applied topically. Sherry D, if you're still there, bentonite clay is what I'm sitting on. I'm sit I'm sitting on 18 acres of a type of bentonite clay, and down the river is a place called Ocklawaha, and that's where oil dry is. They make kitty litter there. They have huge open pit mines, and they dry it at a super high temperature. And then there's such a drawing power to the clay after it's dried, so that it absorbs like 5 times its weight or something like that. So it's very interesting. But yeah, where I live and the hill that I live on, my well, that's the two different types of clay. But yeah, that's one I'm sitting on. Yep, yep. Let me see. Yeah, water is a conductor, Sherry D. It is spiritually and emotions. Yep, absolutely. They're both. They're all of the above. The universe is in the water because the water is interacting with the atmosphere. There's this evaporation thing going on, and there's a lot of other cosmic things going on too that water has, properties and so forth, and in different areas of the country and the world. Some of the springs I've been near up in North Georgia, they're just absolutely spiritual. There's just no other way to describe it. And the beings that I've seen there over the years, oh my God! Now I'm not talking about being on acid or nothing. I'm talking about phew, unbelievable. That's how magically this is. Yep. Charity says, here is a bit of information that backs up what you're saying. Oh, you're researching, David, and your eyes are changing. You are ascending. I see. My eyes are changing. Thank you. Um, and thank you, Sherry D. This is the advanced class Dr. Emoto takes lessons from Hawkeye. I doubt that, but I want to reiterate that shamans for eons have been using water. I mean, for example, and this came to me earlier, and I was like, I don't know where this fits, but let me toss this in there. You've all heard about Machu Picchu, all the way up in the Andes. Well, if you do some of the early, like, let me back up. Some of the research that's been done about that mountain, they started at the bottom of this mountain and put in rocks and drainage systems. And so that the whole mountain is based on the water that falls and is collected. There are springs that come out the side in different places. And there is this it's a stair step effect. It's on the top of the mountain in the Andes, for God's sakes. But whoever made this thing, when they did the underground thingies, what's under the ground, they found all these rocks, they found all these pits, they found and it all had to do with water. But it's a mountain, yeah, but there's water involved. The collecting of it, the running of it, how it goes down the mountain and into the different sections, and all of that kind of thing. Water. So you go, wait a minute, you mean even the ancients? Okay, UFO people? Sure, all right. Water has an energy in itself that is literally, come on now, it's universal. And if you look at the moon, we don't see any puddles of water up there, not to say that there isn't. But I've looked through my telescope at other planets, and it's like, it'd be in. Now I know in dream visions or whatever, and I know I can't explain it, but I've seen the Earth from out in space. I just can't explain it any other way, and it looks different than all these other planets that I've ever looked at through my telescope. But anyway, but to that point though, it's like this little blue marble is special, and the water is special. It's special in the universe. Now, I would think that any other beings, they've got a liquid in them, whether it's blood or water or something. It's a liquid, and I would bet you that it's kind of sort of water based. So water is important in the universe. Just saying. So if it's a universal thing, and if the water, as we already know, is connected to the quantum itself, because we all are, then wow, does that make it even more special? It's like quantum water, or the water is quantum, and the quantum is water. I know that's a little weird and heavy in that respect, but in my standing in the water, just I can't believe it really was yesterday. I thought it was the day before, but I just opened that gallon of milk, and I just bought a pack of cigarettes, so it had to been yesterday. Oh my goodness, it feels like 2 days ago already. That's just craziness. But also, there's like this time dilation thing, for Bob. Thank you, Pamela. And think, speaking of Bob, we'll give this one too. Oh, and by the way, I'm not trying to show off, but I kind of sort of am. This is a necklace I bought last week over at the powwow. And I told a little story about it the other day, but since y'all are here and we're talking about energies and so forth, this is lapis lazuli, and also malachite, and I think little silver in between beads kind of thing. Anyway, um, in doing my research, I've got all different kinds of gemstones and crystals and rocks, and one of the things that I've had, and I didn't realize how much I had, is some black tourmaline, for example. Now I mined this in North Georgia myself, dug it out of the ground, and it's in a quartz matrix. But I've realized for protection, I've got, I got these rocks like all over. I found two of them in the bathroom, one on a shelf and one in the corner. This one's stuck over here, and I was cleaning up under my chair here today, and I realized I got a really big chunk of this sitting right down here by my feet, and I'm like, and there's another one out in the window down over there. So I've got black tourmaline like all around me, for protection and so forth. And a lot of times it's like it's there, and I don't really realize it's there. And this is what I mean. In my realm, and I say my realm, in my reality of things, I understand that all things are connected. But sometimes you just need a reminder, like, hey, pick me up. Oh, why? What a nice little rock. I should recharge this. Because used to go around and recharge all my crystals all the time. I could spend a day just recharging crystals, or more. But the idea is, and back to this lapis, I realized that I needed something for healing. I've had 3 operations on my neck. They separated me, replaced disc, bone, blah, blah, blah. And they didn't do too well. And it wasn't because of me. It was because the technology at the time, that now they bolt people together with titanium. They didn't do that back in the day with me. I wish they had it. But anyway, so I was led to this lapis. And so I got a piece of lapis from my friend, also at the same place. And because I was instructed by spirit that it's healing, and I've done research on lapis before. I've got some in my medicine bag, but I was instructed, of all the things I needed to look for besides sage, was I needed some lapis, and I needed something around my neck. I needed healing. Now I've had this on for a week, and I gotta say, something's going on. It's not a bad thing. If you're having health issues, especially if you've had bones rearranged, both of us have, my friend and I, and we've both had our necks rearranged, and so and with spinal injuries and so forth. And she's a year younger than I am, but we've been friends for 35 years. Well, actually longer than that, because I knew her before I bought this property, and I've been on the property for 35 years. So anyway, 40 years. Oh my God, that long? Anyway, But to the point though, the lapis really feels good. I would suggest that you check in and find out if maybe lapis can help you. This is sort of one of these angel messages that I wanted to kind of share the information with. Don't know how good it'll help you or whether or not it'll do you any good at all, but in my many years of research on gemstones and so forth, I know that lapis is important. If you can get your hands on some, I know it's a little pricey, but I got this necklace for 24 bucks. Well, I thought it was a steal, you know, and for what it's already done for me, if it didn't help me, but for a day, it was worth 24 bucks, but the way it feels now and the way it's kind of like helped my neck, can't explain it, except it feels good and it feels healing. And I want to pass that along to you. So it's almost 2 hours in, and I was only going to do like 30 or 45 minutes of this. But blessings to you all. Pamela, uh, Bob has been a pill tonight. Yeah, I kind of noticed that. Uh, Cheers, Bob. Thank you, Michelle. Pamela, no, I'm not a psychologist. I'm about to take classes to become a clairaudience facilitator. I have an interest in helping women heal from sexual trauma and have had trauma by narcissist. Oh, yeah. Blessings to you, Sherry D. Love black tourmaline. Made 4 rings today. Mine has veins of the type shine like gold. I'll send you photos on Messenger. Uh, Homemade profession, Sherry. Yes. One of the things that you're absolutely welcome, Sherry D. One of the things, Sherry, is over the years is that, and my being molested by priests and uh, a couple other things in my younger days. So I understand where this trauma comes from. I really do. The shame, the guilt that's carried by the person, the anger. I mean, all of the above. I mean, I really get it. And one of the things that I find out that's most important is that you resonate with the person who needs the healing. And the person who needs the healing, how do I say this? If someone's been traumatized, they obviously want to be untraumatized. Boy, all kinds of stuff just flying around, and there's like no bugs here in the house. I'm like this close to, wow, what was that? That was weird. Anyway, what we have to do is understand that for the people who are traumatized, every single person is going to be different. Every person, because every single person's situation will be different emotionally, spiritually, socially, religiously, whatever. But that they all have a common denominator, and that's in that they were traumatic. And PTSD, post traumatic, all of the stuff that go with that. But each individual person, whether rape or treatment or verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual, it doesn't matter because every person, I mean, a next door neighbor can go through similar things from a similar person or the same person. In one case, I found out that someone that I knew very well was pedoed by one of the same priests that I talked about several years ago, and they were like, they finally said, "Me too." That's all they would say. Wouldn't talk about what happened, but the fact that they were able to say, Hawkeye, you've been talking about this for years, and I finally, within my own self, said, he did it to me too. And that was a breakthrough for them. I mean, it was a big break, admitting it just out loud. Now, not on it was a private message to me, but it was a me too. And I went, oh, holy crap. Why didn't you say, I've known you for 50 years. You never said anything until now, until I started talking about it and really talking about it. Frick, you priest, pedo. Blah, blah, blah. But anyway, he was like, yeah, me too. And same priest. Oh, shit. Same rectory. Oh, shit. And I was like, but how he reacted to it, how I reacted to it, even though we were very close as far as we went in the same classes, school, the whole 9 yards, same parish, same priest, same rectory, same everything. His experience, my experience, totally different because we're different people. So, but in that, Sherry, I know you already understand that, but find the thing that will give them the confidence. Because one of the things, I've done this, and so have other people. When we've had these things happen to us, we say, well, I really want to get better. But actually, on the inside, we're kind of wallowing in it. If it's happened to us for a long time, it's almost like that, the captors have you, the Stockholm syndrome. It's almost like a Stockholm syndrome of guilt. And you've got to be able, I had to find this out about me with all the years of therapy. I had to find it out in me. I had to find my Stockholm syndrome that the situation put me in, which means I put myself in it. So I created my own Stockholm syndrome because of what had happened to me. The guilt, the this, the that, and the other thing. And spirits are telling me maybe I should do a separate video on this. But the Stockholm syndrome of the guilt, and every person's got a little bit different slant on it. But I'll bet you, no matter how it is, because they allowed it to happen, because they could have gotten out of it, there's going to be some kind of guilt in there. Stockholm, yes, Michelle. But the situation, they didn't create it, but the situation, I created the Stockholm syndrome out of the situation they created. I know it's really convoluted, but you ain't going to hear this from other psychologists. I had to find this out on my own. They made the initial incident. I created my own Stockholm. I know that's the wrong word, but you get where I'm coming from with this. So as an inside track to this, Sherry D, I've been to a lot of therapy, like 40 years worth of it, and nobody talked about this. Well, if you're guilty, then forgive yourself. Why are you carrying this guilt? Because they don't understand that after so many years of carrying it, you've created your own syndrome. So you say, well, yeah, I want to get better, but then it creeps back up. You got to really want to get rid of it. You got to really want to stomp on it. You got to, I always try to visualize something like, okay, now pick a bug you really don't like. Okay, cockroach, fine. Pick something and say, whatever this is in me, I want to kill like a cockroach. Not that I'm trying to say go around and kill things, but you get my drift. If you got to take it out, you really got to want to squash that bug. You have got to come out of your own Stockholm. And like I say, but Sarah D, I continue to pray for all of y'all, but especially for folks who wish to help other people and who have the opportunity to be able to help other people. But in that, understand, there is a commonality to it, but it ain't common. And, it's not how everybody got there. And I've had some therapists, well, you're like this and that. No, it's similar, but it ain't. Well, all the other clinical psychologists are, yeah, but it ain't me. And to the other people I've talked to, it ain't them neither. And so the clinical psychologists, they've got this little rule book that they're supposed to play by. That's why you get your certificate to be a clinical psychologist, because you go by their rules. But their rules don't explain what's really going on inside of people who it's happening to. And for me and my years, and the four priests, and not counting the other incidents that I haven't discussed, because, well, anyway, pedos are pedos. But the thing is that we've got to understand, yes, there is a commonality, but every person enters it with their own twist. That's all. But so, where I guess my bitch about this is that too many psychologists, too many analysts will go, well, this is how you feel. No, it's not. Well, this is going to how you're going to explain it. No, it doesn't. But this is how it's going to cure you. It hasn't. If it had cured me, I wouldn't have been going to therapy for 40 years. So you're in your dumbass routines, and your chitter chatter to me is stupid bullshit. And you're just trying to make up stuff to make yourself feel good. When a lot of now, I got to say, some of these people were sincere, but I taught them a thing or two. Well, this is how this was supposed to. No, it doesn't. And I actually had two therapists out of the many therapists that I went to. One lady used to come to the theater production I was in. She goes, "You taught me more about therapy than me going to school." And she was going to FSU to get her master's in psychology. We used to sit down and have conversations about things, because my being in a situation and describing it to her in terms of in psychology terms, because I've taken many courses in psychology over the years myself. And and my daughter was going to be a psychotherapist. She lacked like 2 or 3 hours of getting a degree. But anyway, so we've been through this, and years of therapy too. But what they never addressed was that each of us entered into whatever it happened because each of us are different. Every single situation, two people in the same house won't say the same thing. John, goodbye, Pamela. Good night, John. Thank you for stopping in. We blame ourselves, Hawkeye. Yep. Pamela, have a nice night. You buffering way too much tonight, Hawkeye. Can't follow. Love you. See you tomorrow. Bye, too. I want to utilize dance to help get in touch with the body and release cellular memories and get in touch with their sexuality. That's a really good thing, Sherry D. And also, um, by also being in theater and using similar techniques, it's also about the mood of the dance too. A slow dance can do one thing, where a fast pickup dance, the doop 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 doop, maniac, maniac, I know, versus hollow notes and anyway. But the idea though that there's a lot to be said about Tai Chi. It's the motions of the body in the universe. And it's like swimming. And when you think about the different poses, also in ballet, I, I could I tried dance years ago, but because of my knee, I had a lot of dance issues. But I always wanted to not necessarily be a ballerina, but I wanted to be the catcher. If you throw them up, I've always been strong in my arms. I've worked with trapeze and tumbling and stuff back in the old circus days in Tampa and so forth. But so I always wanted to be the catcher. It's like you twirl and flip, and I'll catch you down here on this end. And I'll be the one that you can twirl around. I'll hold you up here, but I'm not necessarily going to dance on my toes. But and I knew several dancers in my lifetime, and just and the energy, the poise, the grace, but also in practicing Tai Chi myself, in that there is a spiritness. Tai Chi is a dance, and dance is Tai Chi in a way. And when you connect the idea and the spirit of it, It's like there is healing in both of it. So if you look at dance as a healing, and if that's your intention, it most definitely can work. It helps to stimulate the body and for the energies to flow. And if you've got good music or good people or good, intent or whatever it is, then it's absolutely good for the healing. Dancing in water, water ballet. Talk about that one now. There's some old well, there are guys too, but there's some old ladies down in St. Petersburg and other places in Florida who would argue that water dance or the water ballet is like you know there are ladies in their 80s and 90s who are still swimming doing some of these things, and it's like, you gotta wonder. Now I know they're in a chlorinated swimming pool, but that's not the point. The point is they're dancing in the water, they're using the water, and even the water and the dance and the movement, that's all therapeutic. And what's to say these, I mean this with the utmost of respect, because I'm an old geezer now. I can say it, but some of these old broads, they got some chutzpah, you know, because they refuse to give up, and the whole thing is therapeutic. So, but anyway, with that said, there's a lot of good stuff going on. John, Sherry, Michelle, Pamela's already gone. Um, and I don't know who else is hanging out here, but much love to you all. Um, I will, Sherry says, I will be doing chakra dance, meditation through dance on each chakra, different rhythms for each chakra in meditation. I will hold a healing space for each participant. It will be a gentle healing. That sounds absolutely marvelous, Sherry, and I mean that with the most of my heart, because the more we help each other to heal, the more we heal ourselves, the more we stay in healing, the more we keep this peace upon the earth in a better way. And with so much strife and so much crap, I still see, like last week at that powwow, good people, good people, without any screaming, hollering, or intent. No trash on the ground, no cigarette butts, no people. And I don't know, probably at least 1,000 people. But the idea is that there are still so many good folks still on this planet. We think that we're the only ones. We think maybe we're becoming extinct. And I'm saying, I'm wondering, I think there are more people actually waking up, but it's very quiet out there because they don't know what to do. And they're going to be reaching out to us in different ways. And the fact that I can just have a conversation with you all and share, let's just share the joy and the peace. Let's share our intent to the universe. That in itself is like, oh, wow. Thank you, my friends. So, with that, much love, collective healing. Absolutely. It will help open and balance each chakra. Absolutely agree, Sherry D. So, closing prayers. I continue to pray every single day, even though I don't come on here and tell y'all. If I'm standing in the water or sitting in my boat, I'm sending y'all prayers. I promise you. Thank you for being who you are. I don't know who else I would be, Sherry D, but there you go. Thank you. You're absolutely welcome. But with that said, I continue to pray for each and every one of you that you will accept and receive the energy from the universe. That I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will continue to accept and receive the energy from the universe, and that you, your friends, your relatives, all of your relations will accept and receive these energies as well. I continue to pray that in all three things we repeat, we say these things with good intent. I pray that each and every one of you will continue to receive, accept and receive the blessings, accept and receive and share the blessings, accept, receive, and share some more. the peace upon this planet, upon each other, upon Mother Earth, upon the sky, upon the universe. Thank you all. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for hanging out with me. Blessings, 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 blessings. I'll be back. I'm going to make another trip to the river, but be safe out there. I'll talk to you soon. And to you, Michelle, as well. Spread the love, spread the good energy. And Sherry D, blessings to you and good luck with everything that all of you are working on and doing. So thank you for being there. I'll talk to you soon. And as I'm usually saying, down here from Southwest Georgia on Hawkeye's 18 and a half, the Little Ochlockonee River Hermitage, I say TTFN, my friends. Ta ta for now.